Greetings and welcome again to the Force4Good Podcast. I'm Dennis Brooks, Senior Superintendent of Police here at the JCF. Well, this week we're bringing you a very special edition of the show, our Father's Day edition, where we shine a light on the incredible journey of officers who are also proud fathers. Well, these are the stories that you don't often hear. The quiet strength, the early mornings, the late nights, and the balancing act between duty to country and devotion to family. Today, you're going to be hearing from two police dads, one raising two spirited girls and the other guiding two growing boys. And each story, while different, the thread that runs through them all is love, sacrifice, and purpose. Later on in the program, we'll be joined by a senior officer whose son has followed in his footsteps and is now serving in the force. It's a powerful testament to the legacy and the bonds that shape our families and our institutions. So whether you're a dad, a son, a daughter, or just someone who really values the stories behind the regulation number, this one is for you. So let's get into it. My guests this week are Senior Superintendent of Police, the head of the Property Management and Maintenance Division of the JCF, Garfield Bucker Taylor, and of course we have Deputy Superintendent of Police attached to the Strategic Operations Portfolio, Sean J. Mitchell. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I have wanted to have this conversation for about 5 years, and for the record, Bucker has been the problem. No, I'm just kidding. It is our schedules have not coalesced, but thankfully we are having the conversation. First of all, let me jump straight into this issue. You're the more senior dad. You have two boys. One is 8 and one is 6.
Right.
You have two girls. One is 7 and one is 2. Almost 8 and almost 3.
Yes.
Both of you, your boys are born in the same month, and both of you, your girls are born in the same month. Is it by happenstance or is it by manipulation of science? Let me ask you, Sean J.
All right. Well, for me, my wife's a OBGYN. So she understands the concept of fertility and timings.
Yes.
So it was down to an exact science almost.
Okay.
So my boys are born the 4th of April and the 3rd of April respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So the older one, Nathaniel, is born the 4th of April.
Yes.
And the younger one, Malachi, is born the 3rd of April, 2 years apart exactly.
2 years apart. And what about you?
Well, my wife, she's July baby, and she was very deliberate on the second one, and so she did the timing and all of that. Okay. So the 3 females in the house are
all of the women in your house to whom you are beholden.
rough.
Well, let me start at the beginning. What was it like for you the moment you realized that you were going to become a father? Because for many people, it's a very sobering moment.
Well, it was one of those moments that brought a lot of light. I was almost in shock, even though
what rank were you at that?
I was a sergeant. And it was one of those moments where I felt like, how is it that I'm going to be a father to this child? You know, so there was a lot of happiness, there was a lot of worry. It's just a wide spectrum of emotions that came out when I was told. Well, she sent me a picture of the pregnancy test, and I was like, whoa, what's happening here? You know? Yeah. And the thing about that, we got pregnant within a couple of weeks after we got married. So it was very early in our marriage, and you know, it was just a lot of excitement throughout. You know,
it was a part of the newness of being married.
It was a part of it, you know. But it was down to an exact science. It was planned carefully, curated, and similarly, a second child came in similar fashion.
What about you, Garfield?
Well, for me, fun fact, we didn't plan on having children. A lot of persons wouldn't know that about us. And it was basically a buck-up, Ray Jordan, initially. And it was, 5 years in our marriage. So it didn't hit home until the day at the hospital when hold her for the first time and know that I'm now responsible for this complete human being. And I start reflect on working back in Kingston West and every type of risk that I usually take. So it's just very sobering, as you said, and it put things into perspective. Where legacy is considered. Before that is like myself and Licia, we just usually plan things at the moment, and now you're thinking of leaving a legacy for, especially financial stability for these human beings.
You know, we often have the conversation about the pressure of fatherhood, and the pressure weighs on different men differently. Some run, some decide that they're not staying. Some become very grounded and they become workaholics because they're so determined. There is a social pressure, a weight of expectation, what it means to be a father. You're from Manchester.
Right.
You're from
St. Catherine.
St. Catherine. Growing up, what did it mean to be a father to you, and how did that influence your interpretation of your role as a father?
Well, I grew up with my dad, both parents, same house, and I had an amazing relationship with my father. My father was a father, in every way. While he never had it financially to provide all the things that I can now provide for my children, he was there, so his time was important. And that kind of shaped the way I viewed life. You know, we had this very tight bond, just a father-son relationship. So he would take me from time to time on the farm. We'd just go on random excursions, just me and him, because I had two sisters at the time. But his son was his quote-unquote pride and joy. So he would leave with his son all the time. And that kind of built something inside of me. And I grew up with that in mind, knowing that once I have children, I will be there for them, just like how my dad was there for me.
What about you?
For me, I grew up with 11 brothers and sisters, nine in the same house. And it's actually the opposite with my wife. She grew up just with her mom. But what was important then is like my dad usually focused on the education part of things. So he didn't have that emotional "I love you" type of thing. And I realized that that is one of the things that I actually make up my mind that I will not do. So it's like I have the "I love you" conversation, the hugs with my daughters and stuff like that. But he was the provider. Everybody go to school, everybody do sports. I think, but it's like we didn't get that soft part of it.
I think that's something that the three of us have in common. People often say to us that because traditionally that role of the father in Jamaica, the fathers who are present are there to beat and teach. They're there to exact discipline, and so it's almost like the father is someone to be feared. And so watch when your father come home. Your father going, and so your mother is there to be loved, and your father is there to be feared. But something I've noticed about both of you is that you're not that type of father. You say it's something that you consciously decided that you're not going to be only the disciplinarian.
Yeah, man. And it the next thing with Licia not growing up with a father, I know that even she feeds off of how I interact with the girls. So that is another important thing. So it's like the atmosphere and how I interact with Jordan and Justice is very important. And I'm very sensitive to it.
And similar to that type of tough love, that's what I had from my dad, despite us being close growing up. And the type of bond that we shared, it was that tough love. There were times when he would be off to work for long periods of time. He used to do farm working, so he would travel to Canada, sometimes 3 to 6 months per year. But nonetheless, whenever he's back, we would still have that type of relationship. As it is now with my boys, I am the negotiating father. I will negotiate with them. It's not that type of hardcore tough love situation. There's still lines of demarcation where there's respect, there's general discipline. But at the same time, I will negotiate with my 6-year-old. I'll have that conversation, and I'm talking about actual negotiations where we negotiate on what he's supposed to do, create some chores for him, and he will negotiate his salary. And that's the type of thing I have with my 6-year-old. Yes.
That sounds like my situation. But you know, I'm going to tie it back to policing, because the truth is that you were a cop before they were born. So they came, them born come see you as police. Do you find that your role as a member of the Jamaican Constabulary Force, in terms of how it has shaped your own identity, has that shaped you as the type of father that you are? Because yes, you have experiences outside, but you're a marketer by in many ways by education, not necessarily by in terms of what you do on a daily basis these days. You could be working with any real estate agency or in construction. If you weren't in the uniform, you were doing what you do professionally, would you be a different dad, do you think? Or would you say that policing has shaped?
I would agree that policing would have shaped my perspective now, especially raising 2 girls, because experiencing females being a victim of crime, abuse, the empathy that I have, the patience that I have. So even with dealing with these situations in the past, it's like it shaped how protective I am with my girls and how I try to instill things within them. But even how I deal with the situation at work is most of the time I like building a facility with my daughter, be able to enjoy these amenities and stuff like that. So it really shapes how I parent my girls.
Well, for me, for sure, it has had some impact on how I parent. So, for example, my older son is autistic. So that level of patience that the job requires, oftentimes dealing with other persons in distress, you have to take that level of empathy and, of course, restraint when dealing with a child who is on the spectrum, who from time to time will have different or varying levels of emotions that they're unable to communicate effectively. And of course, just by virtue of dealing with persons on a day-to-day basis and the nature of the job, it allows me to have that level of empathy and patience with my child. You know, it's just one of those things twinned with what I learned from my upbringing, because not only did I have both parents in the same house, my grandparents were living nearby as well. So I had the extended family with grandfather, grandmother, parents, and all of that come together. And when you put that into a package, you know, along with the policing experience, it does have some level of impact on it.
I'm going to ask you somewhat of an uncomfortable question. You mentioned, so your older son is autistic. As a policeman who you police in stories that people hear from a distance, you have a closer proximity to it. So when you hear about an autistic child being murdered in the back seat of a vehicle, or when you hear about an autistic child being found in deceased in the trunk of a car, I mean, people don't realize the man in the uniform, a human being too, and you don't know that he has an autistic son. So, like, it almost as if some people don't realize that you feel the story a little bit differently than other people. Do you experience the stories of crime or violence, or these sad stories in the same way? I mean, probably not the way I experience it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the pain of other parents, other relatives who have had children who are on the spectrum, who've suffered, even children who are suffering from other types of intellectual disabilities. So I feel for them. And the thing is, there are a lot of police officers who have similar struggles. Silently, they're struggling with it. I have taken a different kind of approach. I speak about it whenever I'm asked. So yeah, my older son, he's 8 years old, he's on the spectrum, and he does require a lot more than my 6-year-old. But nonetheless, looking at the stories of other persons who have similar struggles, and then hearing about the crimes perpetrated against children on the spectrum, it does hit home. you know, and it makes you want to, of course, create that cushion for your child to ensure that he or she does not suffer the same fate.
It's like when I hear a story of, I can't hear a story about a 6-year-old boy and not put my child in the story. I don't know, you hear the other day a story about an 8-year-old girl and immediately you're thinking of Jordan.
Exactly. And that is the main reason initially why we did not plan on having children was my experience with dealing with these things. And I made a conscious decision with Licia that is like, if we don't have a child, it's okay. But now having the Jordan and Justice now is like, you view things in a total different way. And then it's like you wonder how would you manage it as a professional if that happened to your child, because you know your mind will be thinking a lot of different things. You understand? But it's like the good thing is that we're at a time in the force now where in that we're confident that the police force will do all it can to bring this to justice and get some form of closure.
Definitely. I want to touch another issue that I think, I mean, maybe both of you have experienced it differently. Because, Sanjay, we've often had the conversation about if you want to be successful in an organization like this, you have to be prepared to be away from your family. And so you have, you spent a long time at Commissioner's office, and then you, in order to move forward in the organization, you had to move to Westmoreland. I mean, the reality of being transferred is always there. And sometimes a transfer works out for you professionally, but it takes a toll on your marriage. It takes a toll on your relationship with your kids. With you, Taylor, people don't realize that these lovely buildings that we are seeing going up requires you to be Ghana Westmoreland, Ghana Hanover, Ghana St. James, gone here, gone there, gone there. You have to spend a lot of time away. How do you manage, because we've established that you're that hands-on dad, how do you manage when you're hands-on from Westmoreland?
Well, it's a delicate balancing act. And being hands-on physically, it's impossible being out of parish for extended periods of time, save and except for the weekends when I'm home. But what I try to do is have constant communication. The technology now allows us to communicate and see each other while being apart. While it's not the same, there's still that level of understanding and constant communication between the kids. One of the things that I did when I was in Westmoreland, I tried to make it home every weekend. So Friday evening, once I'm off duty and the duty officer takes over, I am on my way into Kingston early Saturday morning, come down on Mondays. And that's what I would do for the better part of 2 years. It does have an impact. After a while, let me start from the beginning. Initially, when I just left, my younger son, who is more aware of what's happening, he would have withdrawals, he would, whenever I tried to leave home.
He's used to the pickup and that
right.
kind of thing.
So whenever I tried to leave home, he would try to block me, don't go back to why you have to go back to work, that type of thing. And then eventually, he leveled off and he got used to the new norm of me coming in and leaving on the weekends. For my older son now, I used to take him to speech therapy, physio, all the other therapies that he's required to do. And now that is left on his mom to carry that out. So he's seen me less and less and less. And in order to just have that balance, when I'm home on the weekends, I try to give them as much of my time as possible, even despite being tired and pop down from a full week of work and then 4 hours of driving back into Kingston. So we try to give them as much as possible from that.
What about you, the man behind the big buildings?
Well, for me, it's more the partnership with my wife, because everybody have this perfection thing. Growing up, you're going to be a part of every PTA, every recital, everything like that, and then realize that it's impossible. But the pact that Licia and I had up until now is that one person must be present. So it's like where I will be off for 2-3 days, and Jordan have something at the school. Licia make it a point of duty to show up. So you have this thing in present over perfection. So you will not get it perfect, but you see when you're present, you make it be felt. And one I think where when you're at these events at the school, and they're on stage, their eyes always looking the crowd.
Yes.
And as
so
soon
true.
as them pick you up,
Yes.
you see the whole body language change. So
I've seen that so many times.
Yes, so you know the importance.
When I go to the football practice, and he could be there, but once as he picks me up on the sideline, it's a different child. Mm-hmm. It is amazing to see their personalities come to life. I have one, you both have two. What's it like managing a dad managing two personalities? I'm curious to hear that.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Nate's needs are a lot different from Kai's.
Mm-hmm.
Kai requires a lot of presence and communication, and he wants to go here and there. Mm-hmm. Nate probably just wants to watch some TV and have something to eat. Mm-hmm. The personalities are different. Mm-hmm. So when I'm home, Kai, he wants to go to Coco Jam, or he wants to go somewhere with his father. He wants to go for a drive out. So I ensure that I take him. Mm-hmm. But Nate now is just chilling with him, ensuring that he's okay.
Like he wants you close to him.
Close to him. He wants to. He's one of his sensory inputs is touch.
Tactile.
Yes, he wants to be touched. So you have to rub him down and scratch his back or his hands. That's the type of thing that he likes. And we try to balance that. And over the years, when I used to take him to therapy, it was just me and him at therapy. When mommy couldn't make it, it would be me and him. Mm-hmm. And we used to just balance who takes him where and how we interact with them. Mm-hmm. And the personalities, as I said, they're different personalities, but we try to balance and filter into each of those personalities at different times.
You have two girly girls, but they're not girly girls in the same. Well, they don't come off that way on social media. They look like girly girls in a different way.
Jordan is a diva, but Justice, she want to run things. You understand? So we talk about negotiation and patience. It's like Jordan have it that Justice is getting away with murder. So it's like she always like, so daddy, what you going to do? So it's just constant competition, sibling rivalry. If Jordan have something, that is what Justice want to play with at this point in time, and vice versa. So it's like you have this conflict resolution in the house consistently. I think what.
And then also, you are both ambitious policemen, because I always say I don't want par with nobody who nana ambition. So if you want to be ambitious and if you want to achieve more and do more in the organization, you have to put in more time. So like, what do you think the next 5 years is going to look like? Let me ask you.
Next 5 years, as in career-wise?
And in terms of with them, and you being a police officer, growing them. I'm not going to ask you if any more on the horizon. I'm just going to ask you what the next 5 years
is. You see, we're just trying to get justice out of the 2-3-year-old period. I think it's like 3 years from now, we're good. You understand? But the tantrum, all of that is but it's like, I think I see where the bond with them is getting stronger, and I see we're in that 5 years time we will be at a better place there. And I think reorganization wise, I think I'll have the latitude to even contribute more.
And I see you put up a post the other day about maintaining your physique so you can lift them up and hold them up. I think that's one of the reasons why we go to the gym, so that we can play with our kids.
But one of the thing also, the gym, starting fatherhood at 40 is like certain things you have to accept. Yes. Wherein that is like you want to be there where they're crossing all these hurdles and points. So it's like you're forced now to ensure your fitness is up, your diet is on point, and thing, because you want to make sure that is like you have a good amount of time left with them.
Indeed.
Especially having girls.
Indeed. And you? Yeah.
It's similar for me. I always say, and in reference to Nathaniel, I just feel like I can't die, I have to be around for him, to ensure that he's fine. And in 5 years, I am hoping and anticipating that he will be a lot more integrated into the regular school system, a lot more personable in terms of his communication skills improving. And as I said, the focus, because of his current intellectual issues, certainly in the next couple of years, I'm anticipating that he'll get better. Malachi is an extremely smart kid, very smart. He's good at numbers, arithmetic. He's good at languages. He speaks different languages, and he has never been to a language school. So he's a very smart kid. And I anticipate in another 5 years that he and his brother will be a lot closer. And one of the things about Malachi, he loves his brother so much.
Yeah, he's very protective.
He's so protective of his older brother, and
I love that.
And he defends his brother right down to the you just can't do nothing wrong. That's Malachi, and he's a sweet kid, very disciplined at school. He tries to run the house, but at school he's a very disciplined kid. So in career-wise, in the next 5 years, certainly I expect to be moving up in the organization, as well as contributing a lot more to their upbringing, providing for them more, and of course striking that balance between what you provide and what they actually need.
Indeed. Well, guys, I must say, for the record, I'm very proud of you and the people that you are, the fathers that you are, the policemen that you are. And thank you for your service as well. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break. When we return, we will speak with ACP Gary McKenzie about his son who has followed in his footsteps. We'll be right back.
In 2023, we gave you the Transformations, People, Quality and Technology Expo, showing a side of the force you have never seen. You asked for more, and we're here to deliver. Bigger and better than ever before.
We are ready to show you more. Be prepared to be amazed at Transformations Expo 2.0.
Meet our detectives and crime scene investigators. Learn more about the side of the JCF behind the front lines in forensics, DNA and ballistic analysis, and in key areas of force development, capacity building, and transformation. See you at the JCF Transformations, People, Quality, and Technology Expo 2.0.
Welcome back to the Force4Good Podcast. If you're just joining us, thanks for coming along for the ride. In this segment, my guest is Assistant Commissioner of Police, Dr. Gary McKenzie. He is the head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB. Dr. McKenzie, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
For the first time in maybe a long time, you're sitting down for an interview, and we're not going to ask you about traffic.
That is true.
But before I do that, you, for so many people, are the quintessential traffic man. Though you've been an operations officer, though you've been a divisional commander, but I remember conversations, hearing people talk about you, especially when you were Westmoreland Divisional Commander, saying a Gary McKenzie in charge of traffic would be a good thing. People become different things over time in the force. How have you, would you say your careers evolved?
Yes, I would say it has evolved. I've really served a lot of places, 11 setups actually.
11?
Right, 11 different setups. But what I've done is to try my best to excel at every one of them. It happens that traffic in particular is one which is very out there in the public. And so I have been known to be out there and to actually excel in traffic. I would like to think that I have excelled everywhere else that I've gone.
Indeed. I'm going to ask a question that I asked the two guests in the previous segment. First of all, when you first found out that you were becoming a father, what rank were you?
I was a constable at the time.
You were a constable at the time. And what was it like when you first heard this child is coming?
Well, it was very exciting. As a young man, you really want to know that you will have a child. And so when I heard of it, it was very good. I was very excited. And so when he eventually was born, just 2 days shy of my birthday, it was like a birthday gift.
And so, growing up with him, what kind of a relationship, of a father-son relationship, did you have? I mean, I know maybe back then it wasn't the same as now. You have the career days and they dress up as different professions and that kind of a thing. But what that kind of a relationship like?
Well, it was a good relationship. When you are serving within an organization such as the police force, and you have to work at different places, especially not necessarily near to home, you would have liked to be there with your children much more. But it is what it is, and so you try to maximize on the time that you have. But I would say that it was very good.
At what point did you realize that he had an interest? Let me not even say an expressed interest, but did you see it coming along the way?
Well, yes, one of the things that I recognize is the kind of regimental attitude. And you recognize the focus, you recognize how, he approaches certain things, and you say, okay, well, he actually looks as if he's very serious. And so it was not really a surprise.
It wasn't a surprise. Would you say that his decision to join the force complicated your relationship? Did it change your relationship with him?
Well, it didn't. At first, I did not think that that was what he wanted. But having been in the force for some years before he was born, and then when he grew up, I am in the force, and when I recognized that that is what was going to happen, I was a little joyful, because then it was a sense of professional attachment, and it was an opportunity to actually groom someone very close to me. So, of course, there was the other side to it. I know the dangers of the force. Personally, I have come very close to dying because of being involved in shootouts and so on. And so that part of it, actually, I think about that as well. But then I said that the world is about risk and destiny. And so, I am prepared to accept what decision he had made.
How did the conversation happen? Did he just come to you one day and tell you, Daddy, I want to apply, or what was it like?
Well, I mean, when he actually finished sixth form at his school, looking to do a number of things, and we were having some conversations, and he was like saying, Daddy, what do you think about me joining the force, and so on. And I said, well, very good. I mean, I'm a police officer. I believe that once you decide to do something, whatever it is about being focused. It is about being serious. It is about doing the best you can. And any profession, if you go into it and you are not focused and you are lazy, and if you do not give it your best shot, then you will not be successful. But once you decide to do something and you put your all in it and you read what the game is about, then certainly you will excel.
Now, recently Dr. Kevin Blake spoke in his Mensa lecture about the evolution of transformation in the organization. But there was a time when, maybe a policeman would tell his child, choose something else. How proud are you that your son, a bright young man, is attracted to the modern JCF?
I'm actually very proud. I mean, I have been in the force and I have seen the evolution across eras and I have seen the development. Personally, I'm a part of the development. When I joined the force as a very young man, I did not have the professional and academic development that I now have. And so at this particular time, I think that the opportunities are far more than when I joined. And so I felt very proud. I believe that he should be a part of the transformation, having made the decision, and I support it.
Mm. And so now he is, I believe, a sergeant, and he works where?
At the Specialized Operations Branch.
And so he's always worked in specialized operations?
He has always been there
Wow. So I mean, and for how long?
for about 13 years now.
So I mean, he went straight into the deep end.
Yes, he went straight there, and as a matter of fact, he was a part of the SWAT um, team for quite a while.
Mm.
And he's a pretty tough guy, just like his father. So
I hear he looks like you too.
yes, I mean, when we make children, we make them very well. So, so I mean, he has done pretty good in my view.
Mm. As a father, looking at your son doing well in the organization that you've given so much time to, how much pride do you feel when you look at him and you look at what he's doing, and then when you hear him get corporal and when you hear him get sergeant?
Well, I feel very good. I mean, an organization like this, it is complex in terms of how one can grow professionally. If you make the wrong steps, then you can be stagnated. And rightly so, this is an organization that harbors discipline, focus. And in order for you to move from one level to another, we expect that people will have that kind of discipline and will show the kind of leadership quality that will ensure that they move up. And so, having seen that he has been elevated twice, I believe I am very proud actually, and I really look forward for him to continue. I encourage him to do so, to not only continue in the path that he has, but he needs to step on the accelerator, which is what I have always done.
Mm. I'll be very honest with you. In my short time in the organization, not so short, I have learned a lot just from conversations with you. I have relatives in the organization much longer than me. And they even way back when I was maybe in high school and at university would tell me about things that they learned from you. What would you say your son, if he was here, would say he's learned about policing from you? Are you one of those, you mentor him like that and you teach? Because you're a teacher, if you haven't noticed, like you do guide and shepherd in that way. Are you like that with him, or do you kind of?
Yes, definitely. I mean, he's a person who will ask me a lot of questions, and I will also share things with him. I like to do that, and I like to encourage that kind of growth. It is one thing to be able to do your job every day, but policing is a science, and if you really do not study and understand what you are doing, then you will not grow. I am always feel very good when he says to me, "Daddy, I'm proud of you. I like how you excel. I like the fact that you're a repository of knowledge," and I encourage him to develop in the same way. It is very important that whilst we conduct ourselves within the police force, and the fact that I am a senior manager, it is absolutely necessary that everything that comes to the fore, that I should be able to treat with it and to offer guidance and mentorship around it.
When you look at yourself and your career in the force, when you look at your legacy, again, this whole thing of being a repository of knowledge, people can come to you and ask you about matters of law, about matters of policy, about matters of operations. Do you find that enough, and not just biological fathering, but in terms of mentorship and guidance is taking place? And would you feel that we need to do more of that?
Yes, it is very important for us to do more. I have often said to my peers within my ranks and around superintendents, senior superintendents, and assistant commissioners, I say that at the point that we are at now, we really have no complaint about how we leave the force. It is for us to have this kind of legacy where we prepare and engender the kind of professional knowledge, the kind of knowledge that will enable those persons who are coming up behind us to be these kinds of persons that will ensure that the force continues its transformation and development. And so I believe that we need to be more wide-ranging. As a matter of fact, I have often said that at our level, we need to do more writing as well. And that is one of the things that I certainly encourage.
Mm. And so, for the father or even the mother who's listening to this conversation, members of the force who their children are showing a particular inclination towards the JCF, but they themselves are antsy about it, what would you say to them?
Well, the first thing I will say is that, listen, once you have a child and you are in the police force, it is almost like a second DNA is formed. The person, your children will see you, they will actually almost live like a little police because of the fact that they are around you. The police force, it has evolved into, it has always been a very noble profession, but now we are seeing that it has been elevated to another level. And so police officers who have children who wish to join the police force, they should encourage them. The opportunities are wide-ranging. The growth that can be had, it's phenomenal. I mean, it is beyond what we can conceive. And so do not discourage your children to join the police force. Encourage them. Persons who are in music, some of their children come and they follow into music and other profession. Let us encourage our children to join the police force and to serve the public.
Indeed. And I think that's a great point on which we can end. Thank you very much, ACP.
Thank you very much for having me.
Indeed, this has been the Force for Good podcast, Father's Day edition. We hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. So until next time, do take care and be a force for good.